I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three black moms. Well, if you are dating, you undoubtedly have had some good and not so good experiences. And if you ended up in a relationship with someone that ended badly, it isn't that they suddenly changed. It's that you didn't see the red flags in the beginning. And maybe it's because you really wanted a life partner, you really wanted a relationship, you really wanted a romantic interest. And they maybe really looked good. Maybe they had money. Maybe they had status. Maybe your friends hooked you up. And so you decided you were going to be in a relationship with this person. And then things went horribly wrong and you can't figure out how it happened. Well, the important thing is to take responsibility for your choices and to realize that people don't suddenly go bad. They give you signs all the time. And many times we just choose to ignore them because we really want to be in a relationship with this person. And then when it goes bad, we feel bad about ourselves because we think there's something wrong with us. Well, there's nothing wrong other than our perhaps failure to identify the red flags. So today, sisters, we're going to help those who might be new to the dating game or maybe have been out of the dating game for a while, because we've all had experience before we finally found that one that was the one. We've all had experiences that let us know that there are times when someone is showing you who they are, and like Maya Angelou said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. But we may have overlooked it because of all the other attributes, maybe physical or whatever the case may be, that we chose not to see the red flags. So, sisters, let's share some of our experiences that gave us wisdom and talk about some red flags that, if you're paying attention, they will show you this person is not for you. So first of all, Cheryl, let's hear your thoughts, because you've had some interesting experiences.
Oh, yes, I've had several interesting experiences. And the one thing I have to say, oh, the quote, it's believe them the first time. And that's the thing, is that a lot of times people will show you who they are the first time. And we, as people of empathy and sympathy and connection, we want to attribute it to all kinds of things. We'll say, oh, he said that kind of funky thing because he was nervous, or she's just, looking for a certain kind of man and she's been hurt before. Now, I'm what of the three of us, I'm the only one who's been married more than once. My first marriage ended very uh, quickly, thankfully, and it was a lot of flags that I probably should have seen, but stars in your eyes, and the person was charming, which is also sometimes a red flag. Quick to anger, but then very quick to apologize and love bomb you, which is also a red flag. Love bombing is a red flag because sometimes people do that. And when I say love bombing, for people who don't know what that is, it is when you meet someone and that person is all in. They're calling, and at the time, many years ago, this is way before texting, but they're calling you, or they're texting you, or they're sending you flowers to your work, or they're telling everybody about you. and they're making this great big grandiose um uh, uh affirmation and acclamation of your love for you, and so you're overwhelmed and you're swept off your feet, and all of us remember that whole, oh, sweeping you off your feet. Well, really, a lot of times this is how it starts, but you have to listen to what they say and also what they don't say. And I always said there are several things. One is we're judged by the company that we keep, so you have to see who that person's friends are. And you also have to kind of listen to what they say about their exes. I always said, and this came from many years of picking the wrong person or having the wrong person pick me, that when a person speaks very badly about their ex and takes no accountability, or maybe they take a little accountability, but they always seem to be more the victim instead of the bad guy, and this can be male or female, you have to kind of start, why is this always happening to you? What are you not seeing? You know, and that person may come off as very charming, so you dismiss the little weird things that they say, or after the love bombing will come, sometimes that red flag is them wanting to push very quickly for commitment from you. That's a red flag, because once they have you in, what happens is that they start the death by a thousand duck bites. I didn't like the way you were wearing that when we went to the store today. I didn't like you talking to that person. I didn't like uh whatever it was. I don't like that friend of yours. Why were you flirting with that man or that woman? It's all of these things that are red flags. And yet we misinterpret those flags as, oh, this person is just so in love with me. Oh, they want me all to themselves. Oh, we're just going to make it. And all of these things, they feed your ego, but they're not going to feed your soul, because that person is looking to control you. They're not looking to bond with you. They like your friends, but then they start criticizing your friends. They start wanting to spend more time with you to the exclusion of everyone else. And you not supposed to spend time, go on that girls' trip, or talk to your friends on the phone, or anything that doesn't involve them. That's a red flag. It was funny because I was reading something today on Instagram, where I always tell you this is where I live, is on Instagram. And someone asked, if someone asks you what you do for a living, is that a red flag? Well, sometimes that's small talk, and there is this discussion of, well, maybe that means that person doesn't have a job, or or they're looking to see, maybe that they're telling you that you'll be paying half the bills. They're not as accomplished as you, and I don't buy that. I think sometimes just knowing what you do for a living is a part of knowing who you are. However, if that person is using this information to affix certain things to you. Oh, you're snotty, you're stuck up, you're college educated, you make too much money, or you don't make enough money, or you just want a meal ticket, or they want you to be their meal ticket. All of those things are red flags, because money can be a great stressor, especially early in a relationship.
Oh
Go
yeah.
50-50 on that first date, make it a casual, make it a coffee date. If that person seeks to impress you. Another one, some was asking if somebody covers the takes you
Bill,
on a,
they ask you, should you cover the tip?
yeah,
Should
should you
you
cover the
receive
tip?
or should
Yeah.
be offended? And I feel like you're saying, if it's casual first date, it's okay because I don't expect you to pay for everything, and I don't want you thinking you paid for everything. So,
Yes.
so I don't have a problem with that. But I think, and like you say, when people ask you, well, what do you do for a living? Well, that's basic small talk. Get to know you and all that kind of thing. However, if somebody asks you how much you make, That is a red flag. Why do you need to know? Nobody needs to know what I'm making other than my tax preparer, because they need to be able to prepare my taxes in a way that I
Why is that even in the conversation? Now that you mentioned that, I don't think I've
why
ever
would you
had
want to
anyone
know what I'm
ask
making?
me how much
That's
they
your
made.
business, you know.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
know,
I think you have to also realize, and this does not just fall on the young. I'm thinking back to my college days when I was meeting new people. A lot of these older classmen, they pounced on the freshman women because we were all so innocent and dumb. But there was this one guy who was just so bad, and asked me out. And we're just walking down Main Street. This is in Peoria, Illinois. And we're passing by a store with all kinds of jewelry and things like that. And I said something like, "Oh, I really like that. That's kind of pretty." He says, "Oh, I'll get that for you." Rushed in there to buy it. And now this may not seem like a red flag to you, but to me, that was really frightening, that me just saying I like something, and this is like my first time out with this person,
pleasing to
and he is like rushing to get something for me, and I don't even know you to be buying me jewelry. But I think there are a couple of things, because older women can fall into these traps too,
yeah.
especially if you have been either single a long time or recently divorced or broken up. You've had some bad relationships under your belt, and anyone who is remotely decent, you're going to fall for them and not see any of the red flags. Now, there are a couple of books I'd like to recommend. I recommended them to my high school students. One is called How Not to Fall in Love with a Jerk. And the other one is called, by the same author, How Not to Marry a Jerk. And it goes through all these steps that you look for in a relationship. One of the first things they say is that sex on an early dating relationship is a complete ruiner of a real relationship because you don't know anything about the person. The physical might be good, it might be really good, but it disguises the real person. You cannot build a relationship on physical intimacy alone. There are so many other avenues that need to be explored before you get to that. I know that Steve Harvey has the 90-day rule. I think that's cute. But
How to
some
act
people
like a
don't
man
even
and
do
think like
that.
a woman.
You know,
Know
some
how to
people, they're like, "Oh, what a fox!
act like a woman, think like a
What
man.
a great chick!" Let us see if we fit together physically. And it needs to be so far none of that. And I will tell you, I'm totally old school. Wait till marriage before you jump in the bed with somebody. And I know a lot of people don't do that anymore. But you need to at the very least, be able to trust this person on a level where they are trustworthy. They have your welfare in mind. They are not eager to fulfill their own physical desires, but they are willing to build a relationship based on a lot of other external things. And sometimes a small thing will give you a clue. What if this person is like perfect in every way? And then you get in the car with them and their personality changes and they explode into a road rage that is like turning from Jekyll to Hyde. That is a red flag because if they're blowing up over somebody cutting them off on the freeway, they might be blowing up at you about something else.
Thing.
And small things in a person's personality. No one is perfect. You are not going to. But if you find somebody and you think that person is perfect, look out because all of those uh, hidden masks start to fall. Be able to evaluate how this person reacts in every situation. How do they treat their sister? Is every woman that they see a flirting opportunity? How do they treat their mother? How do they treat other women in their family? These are all clues on how you are going to be treated.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Also, Also, how do they talk about other women?
How do they talk about their ex?
How do they talk about their ex?
They
If
talk
their
about
ex
her
is a
real
B,
bad.
a C,
Right.
and I'm not saying any of those words, but if they call them out of their name, that's what they're going to call you at your very first argument.
Yes.
And then
that's
you're going to be devastated, and and you're going to be looking, especially if you've been love bombed, to try to get back into that person's good graces
Mhm.
because you feel like you've invested something and this person's really good. Oh, he just, he really apologized and he gave me flowers afterward. But they're always going to be making you feel insecure and making you feel bad. And that's the whole point. There's another book that's called Smart Women, Foolish Choices.
Mhm.
And it's an old one because I read it probably 30, 40 years ago or something, right after my first marriage broke up. And it talked about women, because a lot of times women are the ones, especially Black women, we're the most educated, group in the world. But we will fall in love with the man's potential. Oh, well, if he just gets a break, and there's that whole, should, Black women hold up Black men? Yes, we should. Yes, we should hold up all of our people. But the thing is that don't fall so in love with someone's potential that you're making excuses for them, that you are enabling them. You're not helping them, you're enabling them. You're always having to be the one who, invest in this scheme or that scheme, or investing in whatever, or you're not just paying the bills, because it really isn't about money, but it's investing in their bad choices or making up for their bad choices. Those are all red flags, because you can believe in somebody, but don't believe in them to the detriment of yourself.
And
You
you're
know,
always investing in their ideas, and you're always broke, and their ideas never work, and according to them, it's always somebody else's fault.
it's always someone's fault.
And
Yeah.
okay, at 18, you have potential. At 48, if you have not realized that potential, is not happening. So
Yeah.
realize when a person has habits that's going to keep them from ever realizing that so-called potential, and you'll get sucked in, and next thing you know, like you say, you're an enabler. And you mentioned something about, well, a couple of things you mentioned, the sex situation, and we talk about this all the time in our shows. The fact that sexual intimacy releases a chemical in the brain, oxytocin, that bonds you to the person you're intimate with. So you are emotionally bonded biochemically to somebody who might be a jerk, and then you just keep trying to make it work because your body is telling your brain to stay bonded with that person. And that's what happens when you become sexually intimate with somebody that you don't even know. And then it's like an investment, and then you keep trying. It's like somebody gambling. You win something, and then you start losing, and then you lost everything. Then you keep playing because you want to win back the money that you had before and lost, and you just keep going further and further in the hole. Well, that's what happens when you keep trying to make a bad relationship work because you've invested in it sexually, with your emotions, your intimacy, and you don't want it to fail because you've invested. And you got to know and then cut your losses. At some point, even a gambler has to realize, okay, I've lost everything. I'm not going to get
it. Watch that. What was it? Twilight Zone. I mean, yeah.
No, Kenny Rogers said that. No one
was gambling so much the machine started chasing after him.
So I mean, nope, yeah, you don't want to feel like, oh wow, this was terrible. I shouldn't have tried. I shouldn't have, given my heart to somebody who was a jerk. But they showed you there was a jerk in the beginning, and you just didn't see it because maybe they couldn't see it. It was fine. Oh, he looked good. Oh, he's fine. He gets such amount of money. Oh, he wear them nice suits. I mean, you can get sucked in by all the material things and totally miss that they showed you they was a jerk first argument you have, and that's why you got to look at how do they handle anger. Your first argument is important, and it's good to argue. Somebody, we never argue. That's a red flag too sometimes. Yeah. Not to say that
it may be one that avoids dealing with real conflict.
If they avoid confrontation, if they avoid arguments. They won't stand up for themselves. That's a problem too, because at some point you're going to need somebody who's got some backbone and will stand up for themselves. And if you disagree and they just, okay, well, whatever you say, that's a red flag. Because who wants somebody who doesn't have
And never go into a relationship with someone thinking, oh, they'll change or I can change them.
No.
There's this joke where this husband and wife, the wife goes, you have never changed. You're the same. And he is upset with her because she's always changing. And the problem is you cannot change someone else. If you don't like the way they are, then maybe you need to walk away and find someone else who is already at the place that you're hoping someone is going to be. I had a conversation like this with one of my seniors when I was teaching at this school, and I had seniors. Some of the hardest students to teach outside of middle school are seniors who think they already know everything because they're about to either go off into college or go off into some kind of employment. They think they know everything. Now, there was this guy at my school, and he was a fox. And I am not, he had a beard. I remember once I said to him, is that legal for you to already be having a beard? But he was a really good looking guy. He had a girlfriend, another senior, but he was mean. And all the girls liked him. Even all the underclass girls liked him. He could talk to anybody, and he would make these jokes, but he'd be serious. He would say, like, now, woman, go make me a sandwich. And he's like, not kidding. And because I remember when he said some silly thing like that to me, I said, ooh, now you're a sandwich, because you're full of baloney. And so, but it was disheartening to me to see the girls falling and fawning all over this guy when he was mean. I mean, just mean. He said mean things. He did mean things. He talked mean. He acted mean. He was full of himself, but he was a fox. If all you're looking for is a physical, because that's all you were going to get.
Yeah. But that's funny because what does they say about, girls do? We all like the bad boys at some point in our lives. We do go for the bad boys. And the thing is, when you are mature, you realize that the bad boys are going to be dying alone because you ain't got time for that nonsense. What we want
or they find somebody with low self-esteem who just keep hanging on.
That's who they can abuse. The thing is that our whole thing is those are red flags. If somebody makes you feel bad about yourself, why would you be with them?
Yeah.
You don't have. If you have a friend who made you feel bad about yourself, you would stop spending time with them.
Right.
A man that says, well, he tells me about myself. He calls me out on my stuff.
Oh, yes, honest.
Well, but he also does he allow you to call him out?
Right.
And that's the thing, is that I just find it very interesting that we feel like we need to be called out on some things, but we're not confident enough to say, well, wait a minute, I like the way I wear my hair. If you don't like the way I wear my hair, then you don't have to look at it. You can walk away. Don't tell me that I need to cut my hair, grow my hair, dye my hair, whatever, wear weaves, whatever you want me to do, straighten it. All these kinds of things that people look to change you. And it's funny because one of the things they say is men marry women hoping they won't change, and women marry men hoping that they will. And Barbara, you said something very funny about people trying to change someone. People are fundamentally who they are. Of course, there's certain things as you grow and you mature, but if it's not nice to people, he's not going to be nice to, you. He's just not. And that's the thing is I always call it the King Kong complex, where women feel like, oh, he's mean to everybody, but I can make him nice to me. He may be nice to you at first as he reels you in, and then it's the death by 1,000 duck bites. It's the little criticisms. It's the, oh, you're not wearing makeup anymore, or you wear too much makeup, or whatever.
Big, or you got too skinny, or you're
gaining too much weight.
Yeah,
I had a roommate in college who was beautiful. and she was only my roommate for I think a semester, and then she moved in with someone else, and then she got a she was dating a football player, and he, and of course she was light skinned. Of course, we're all colorists, so he wasn't very nice to her after a while, and they went to somebody's house, and she had started gaining a little weight, and they offered them something to eat, and he says nothing for her. She's already, she's already, like too big or something like that. And he was saying
Ooh.
things to her about her being heavy, and she really wasn't heavy. She had gained a few pounds, but
Mm.
she was
Even
always
if she
But she
was,
took it. She took
heavy.
the insult.
Yeah, but it was like it was such a nasty thing to say to her, in in front of people, to humiliate her.
yeah.
And I remember her, she was telling me about this because we hadn't been roommates for a while, but she had come because she thought he was cheating on her, and she had found his car
Mm.
there, and so she came to say, have you seen him, or do you know anything about it? And that's the thing, I felt so bad for her because she was such a pretty girl, and here she got this football player, and it was like during the time when K-State wasn't very good, so but all these guys thought they were going to go pro, and only a couple of them did,
Mm.
and he wasn't one of them. And but I think these women hang your hat on someone who you think is going somewhere, but you're hanging your hat on that person even though
They're not treating you nice, and they're never going to treat you nice, even if they become
yeah,
famous and
Yeah.
wealthy and
It's
all of
it's
that.
worse. It will escalate.
This will escalate. And so, and this is why we need to make a decision that we're only going to allow ourselves to be treated well in a relationship. And if that person is not treating us well, we need to let them go. And do not keep giving somebody chance after chance after chance after they humiliate you, lie to you, embarrass you, and you just and they, oh, it doesn't matter how many flowers they give you.
yeah,
And you
yeah,
need to be
They
able
are, believe
to
them.
recognize that. It's almost like when you are bargain hunting. I know when I was in China, my daughter taught me the skill of walking away. There's a certain amount you are willing to pay, and they will not come down if they think that they might lose a sale. You walk away, and they will run after you to the okay, the $4, $3, $2.
But you got to be willing to walk away.
But
And
you have to be
you
willing to
always
walk
be
away.
willing to
And
walk.
the same thing in a bad relationship. As soon as I was thumbing through this book that was on my daughter's shelf, and the title of it was Boundaries. And it was all about those kind of things. If you know your own boundaries, you will not fall victim to someone overstepping them.
that's
Yes,
it. Well,
yes.
we've got to go, and we hope you learned something. And if you're in a relationship where you need to walk away, walk away.
Walk away.
It's okay. You know what?
Walk
Be sad.
away, Renee.
Be sad, cry, put on some sad music, and then say, you know what? More in the relationship, and then say, but there is obviously somebody else out there for me. This
Yeah.
just wasn't the one. No second chances. No, okay, we'll fix it with counseling. That person has already shown you who they are
Yeah. Believe them.
Believe me.
the
All
first.
right. The first time. Well, we will see you next time. And until that time, I'm Naima.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Barbara. We are three Black moms.
Bye.
Hi, I'm Barbara.
I'm Cheryl.
And I'm Naima. We're three Black moms.